There is a side of a man that remains invisible to the world, subtle, guarded, and often unconscious. This side doesn't show up in his career, his social circle, or even in the mirror. It emerges only in the quietest, most intimate spaces, and only in front of one specific person, the woman he truly loves. According to Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychoanalyst, this hidden behavior is not random. It's a manifestation of something much deeper at play in the male psyche. It carries warnings, lessons, and revelations, not only about the man himself, but also about the nature of love, projection, and emotional truth. This is not about manipulation or charm. It's about the exposure of the shadow, the appearance of the anima, and the silent cries of a soul attempting to individuate through love. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below saying, "I am ready to see beyond the mask." Carl Jung's analytical psychology provides a profound lens through which we can understand the hidden behaviors men express only toward the woman they truly love. At the heart of this behavior lies the dynamic interplay between the unconscious and conscious realms of the psyche, especially the concept of the anima, the inner feminine aspect within every man. The anima represents his deepest emotional responses, his capacity for intimacy, creativity, intuition, and vulnerability. It is not simply a psychological mechanism, but a living archetypal force. When a man falls deeply in love, the anima awakens, often projecting itself onto the woman he loves, attributing to her qualities that actually reside within himself, though unrecognized. Jung warned that this projection can become both transformative and dangerous. It can lead to a form of idealization that blinds him to who the woman really is, creating a fantasy relationship between his soul and the external world. However, it also opens a rare psychological window. Only through love can certain aspects of the shadow, those repressed, denied, or socially unacceptable parts of the self, surface in a way that demands integration. The behaviors that emerge in this space are often contradictory. Vulnerability masked as withdrawal, tenderness wrapped in frustration, or a need for connection tangled with silence. These are not signs of disinterest. They are signs of a psychic battle taking place between the desire for wholeness and the fear of exposure. Jung's process of individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole and integrated self, often begins here. The woman becomes a mirror, triggering the man's hidden complexes and unhealed wounds. In facing them, he is given the opportunity not only to love authentically, but to know himself more completely. Love, in this context, is not merely an emotion. It is an initiation. In the depths of a man's soul lives a voice he often doesn't know exists until love calls it forward. Carl Jung called this voice the anima, the feminine aspect of the male psyche, the archetype that holds his emotional truth, his capacity to feel deeply, and his intuitive wisdom. For most men, this dimension of self remains dormant or repressed due to cultural expectations, emotional conditioning, and fear of vulnerability. But when a man truly loves, not just with attraction or admiration, but with soul-level connection, the anima begins to awaken, and with her, vulnerability finds its way to the surface. This vulnerability is not a weakness, though it often feels like one. It's a trembling at the threshold of exposure, where layers of defense built over a lifetime start to fall away. The man may not fully understand what's happening to him. He may feel raw, disoriented, or even ashamed by his openness. But at the core of this experience is an unconscious recognition. He has allowed someone close enough to touch the part of him that is most sacred and most hidden. This is the anima's territory, the place where the masculine meets the feminine within. Most men grow up learning to associate strength with emotional restraint. They are taught to conquer, provide, and protect, but rarely to feel. The world rarely gives them safe space to explore the parts of themselves that long to connect, weep, or surrender. When a woman enters his life who resonates with the anima, either through compassion, deep emotional intelligence, or an inexplicable psychic bond, the man is pulled into an inner experience he cannot control. He begins to reveal aspects of himself that are rarely, if ever, shown to others. This can manifest in confessions, emotional breakdowns, tender gestures, or simply a quiet presence that asks for nothing but trust. Jung understood that this process is not linear. It often involves tension, confusion, and resistance. The man may vacillate between opening up and shutting down, drawn toward the intimacy yet frightened by its intensity. This is because the anima, while powerful and healing, also demands honesty. She brings to the surface everything he has hidden, his unmet needs, his emotional injuries, his fears of abandonment or inadequacy. To reveal vulnerability is to stand unguarded in front of another person, but also, more terrifyingly, in front of himself. The woman who receives this vulnerability becomes more than a partner. She becomes a psychic mirror. Her presence stirs the man's unconscious, forcing him to confront the dissonance between who he pretends to be and who he truly is. This confrontation is painful, but also transformative. It offers a rare opportunity for the man to access his own emotional depths, to speak the language of feeling rather than strategy, and to soften the rigid roles he's learned to perform. This hidden behavior, so different from how he acts with friends, colleagues, or even past partners, is not a performance or manipulation. It is the beginning of integration. When a man allows his anima to speak, even if only in brief moments, he begins to experience love not just as affection or desire, but as a journey inward. He begins to listen to parts of himself long silenced. He begins to connect with the feminine not just in the woman before him, but in himself. And yet, this awakening does not always feel like peace. It often feels like chaos. Vulnerability opens wounds, exposes patterns, and demands accountability. Some men may retreat, overwhelmed by what they feel. Others may lean in, unsure but willing. Either way, the anima does not retreat once awakened. She continues to call him toward greater authenticity, greater emotional fluency, and ultimately, greater wholeness. In truth, a man reveals his deepest vulnerability not because he is weak in love, but because love activates the parts of him he's spent a lifetime hiding. Jung's warning was never about avoiding this experience. It was about respecting its power. Vulnerability is not the end of masculine strength. It is the beginning of inner transformation. When a man truly falls in love, something extraordinary happens inside him, something both beautiful and dangerous. Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection, a process in which unconscious contents of the psyche are externalized onto another person. In the case of romantic love, a man often projects his anima, the inner feminine image he carries, onto the woman he loves. This isn't just emotional infatuation. It's a psychic event, one that wraps her in layers of unconscious idealization, making her appear more than she truly is, or more accurately, making her appear as a mirror of what lives in him, but has not yet been integrated. This projected image is not based on who the woman actually is, but on what she represents to his inner world. She becomes the carrier of his unspoken dreams, emotional needs, and spiritual longings. She is idealized, placed on a pedestal, not because she asked to be, but because his soul is trying to reconnect with a disowned part of itself. To him, she may seem perfect, intuitive, compassionate, radiant, endlessly understanding. But this perfection is often an illusion, a mask cast by his unconscious that reflects not her true essence, but his own inner feminine in symbolic form. Jung warned that projection can be a portal or a prison. In the beginning, it creates intense attraction, passion, and a sense of profound connection. The man feels as if he has found his missing piece. The relationship feels fated, transcendent, larger than life. But over time, as reality emerges, the image starts to crack. The woman begins to reveal her full humanity, her contradictions, limitations, and individuality, and the illusion begins to fade. For many men, this shift is deeply unsettling. They may feel betrayed, disillusioned, or confused, not realizing that it wasn't the woman who changed. It was the projection that began to dissolve. This is where the danger lies. If a man does not understand the psychological nature of projection, he may reject the woman once she no longer fits the image he cast upon her. He may withdraw, criticize, or emotionally disconnect, believing she has failed him, when in truth she is finally being seen for who she really is. Without awareness, he remains trapped in a cycle of seeking the ideal, only to be disappointed by the real. The cost of this unconscious idealization is the inability to see the other as a separate, complex being. It creates emotional dependency, unrealistic expectations, and a subtle pressure for the woman to live up to a role she never agreed to play. Even worse, it prevents authentic intimacy. Real love requires seeing and accepting the other person in their fullness, not as a projection of inner need, but as a sovereign soul with their own shadow, light, and path. However, if the man becomes conscious of the projection, something powerful can occur. He can begin to withdraw the anima from the external figure and reclaim her as part of his own inner life. This does not mean the love ends. In fact, it can deepen. The relationship shifts from fantasy to grounded reality. The woman is no longer burdened with perfection, and the man no longer feels betrayed by her humanity. Instead, a more honest connection becomes possible, one rooted in mutual recognition, not illusion. Jung believed that every projection carries a gift. It shows us what we have yet to know about ourselves. In projecting the anima, a man reveals what he longs to integrate: emotional sensitivity, intuitive depth, the ability to surrender and relate from the heart. But the gift only becomes real if the projection is eventually withdrawn. This is the crossroads in many relationships. Some men retreat when the illusion fades, while others rise, confronting the uncomfortable truth that the woman they love is not their inner goddess, but a living, breathing person who reflects what they need to face within. True love begins when projection ends, when the woman is no longer a symbol but a soul, and the man is no longer lost in idealization but present in truth. Jung's warning was not against love, but against mistaking fantasy for reality. The hidden behavior that emerges in deep love often begins in this projection, but the way a man responds when the illusion dissolves reveals how close he is to inner growth. To continue loving beyond the image, that is the test and the opportunity. Love, especially when it reaches into the deepest layers of the soul, does not only bring warmth, connection, and joy. It also has the uncanny ability to awaken what Carl Jung called the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that holds everything we reject, suppress, or deny about ourselves. In most men, the shadow remains buried beneath layers of persona, the socially acceptable identity they present to the world. But when a man truly loves, the emotional proximity and psychic intensity of that bond can trigger the release of these hidden aspects in surprising and often disruptive ways. In ordinary life, a man may appear composed, rational, and even emotionally distant. He may operate through logic, performance, or control. But within the intimate space of love, where the soul feels exposed and the stakes are highest, the shadow begins to stir. Emotions that were once managed begin to leak through: jealousy, fear, neediness, irritability, shame. This isn't weakness, it's psychological truth. The shadow is not evil or toxic by nature. It is simply the part of the self that has been unloved, unexamined, and unaccepted for too long. The woman who becomes the object of true love often becomes the mirror through which this shadow is reflected. Her presence, especially if she touches him on a soul level, acts like a psychic key. Suddenly, things he never allowed himself to feel surface with alarming clarity. He may find himself overwhelmed by emotional responses he cannot explain. He might withdraw, act cold, or even lash out. These reactions are not signs of falling out of love. They are signs that something unconscious is surfacing, and he doesn't yet have the tools to process it. Jung emphasized that intimacy is one of the most powerful catalysts for shadow work. When someone gets close enough to see through the persona, the shadow panics. It fears exposure, judgment, and the possibility of being seen in all its raw imperfection. Many men are not equipped for this level of vulnerability. Their upbringing, cultural conditioning, or past wounds have taught them that to be emotional is to be weak, to be dependent is to be shameful, and to be seen too clearly is to risk rejection. As a result, the man may unconsciously sabotage the very relationship that awakens his inner world. He might create distance, start unnecessary conflicts, or criticize the partner in ways that project his own unresolved pain. These behaviors often confuse the woman, who senses emotional depth but is met with resistance or contradiction. What she may not realize is that the man is not trying to hurt her. He is trying, in a chaotic and unconscious way, to protect himself from the overwhelming reality of his own shadow. This is one of Jung's most important warnings. The closer someone gets to our core, the more likely they are to activate the unconscious contents we have not yet faced. Love, therefore, becomes dangerous not because of the other person, but because of what it forces us to confront within ourselves. For men, this confrontation often involves shame, inadequacy, fear of failure, and the pain of unmet emotional needs from childhood. These wounds, long hidden, find their way to the surface through the crucible of intimacy. But this is also where healing begins. If a man is willing to stay in the discomfort, to reflect on his reactions rather than project them, and to speak the truth of his inner experience rather than act it out unconsciously, then love becomes alchemical. The relationship transforms from a battlefield of projections into a container for individuation, a sacred space where both partners are not only loved but seen, and through that seeing, transformed. The hidden behaviors that emerge in these moments, emotional withdrawal, inexplicable mood shifts, sudden silence, or bursts of intensity, are not flaws to be condemned, but messages from the psyche. They are the shadow's way of asking to be integrated. The man who loves deeply is the man whose unconscious will rise up in the face of that love. It is not a sign of regression, but a signal that something important is being unearthed. To love a man in this space is not to excuse harmful behavior, but to recognize the psychological complexity at play. For the man himself, the call is even greater, to step beyond reaction and into reflection, to ask not, "What is she doing to me?" but, "What in me is being activated right now?" That question is the beginning of conscious transformation. Jung believed that what we do not make conscious appears in our life as fate. In love, this is especially true. The shadow will surface one way or another. The only question is whether it will destroy the relationship or deepen it. The answer depends on whether the man can face himself with the same courage he uses to love someone else. For Carl Jung, the purpose of life was not happiness or success in conventional terms, but individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all aspects of the self, both conscious and unconscious. While this journey is deeply personal, Jung acknowledged that some of the most powerful catalysts for individuation are found in relationships. When a man truly loves a woman, not from a place of ego or possession, but from the depths of his being, he enters into a sacred space where psychological transformation becomes possible. Love, in its truest form, becomes a mirror through which he can see not only the other, but himself. Deep love exposes the man to experiences he cannot control or fully understand. He is drawn into emotional territory that logic alone cannot navigate. In this space, the anima, his inner feminine, is activated, not only through projection, but through engagement. The woman, if she reflects his inner world with honesty and presence, becomes a living symbol of what he needs to integrate: emotional depth, intuition, receptivity, vulnerability. She triggers the need not only to connect, but to become. And it is in that need to become that individuation begins. What makes this process so transformative is that love insists on honesty. The man who truly loves will, over time, come face to face with his own limitations. He may see how his need for control interferes with intimacy. He may become aware of the emotional defenses that block connection. He might recognize how his fears of abandonment, failure, or being truly seen shape his reactions and distort his perception of the relationship. These realizations are painful, but they are also necessary. Without them, he remains a fragmented self, operating from the surface of his psyche, disconnected from his depth. Jung taught that individuation is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. That means integrating not just the qualities we admire, but also those we repress. In a relationship marked by deep love, a man is given countless opportunities to encounter his own shadow, anima, and unresolved wounds. Every disagreement becomes a doorway. Every emotional reaction becomes a message. Every moment of vulnerability becomes a test of whether he will retreat into the familiar or step forward into self-awareness. The woman in this process is not his therapist or his savior. She is a fellow traveler, someone whose presence invites the man to rise into his fullness. But this invitation is not always gentle. Sometimes it arrives through conflict, silence, or the mirror of disappointment. In those moments, the man can either blame her for his discomfort or recognize the projection and begin the work of reclaiming it. This is where the real labor of love begins. Not in passion, but in patience. Not in fantasy, but in self-confrontation. Individuation through relationship also involves the integration of masculine and feminine energies within the man himself. Traditionally, men are conditioned to live from their animus, active, logical, goal-oriented. But love calls forth the anima, the receptive, nurturing, feeling-oriented self. When these energies are not in harmony, the man feels torn, confused by his own emotions, destabilized by the intensity of connection, unsure of how to hold both strength and softness at once. But as he learns to listen to the feminine within, he discovers a more authentic version of masculinity, one that is not performative, but rooted in wholeness. This balance does not mean becoming less of a man. On the contrary, it means becoming more human. The integrated man is not one who has eliminated his flaws, but one who has accepted and integrated them. He no longer seeks to control love, nor does he run from it. He learns to stand inside it, aware of his projections, in conversation with his shadow, in reverence toward the person before him, and in relationship with the deepest parts of himself. In this way, love becomes a spiritual path, not because it is always joyful or easy, but because it demands growth. It asks the man to choose awareness over ego, truth over comfort, intimacy over image. And as he answers that call, not perfectly but sincerely, he moves closer to what Jung called the self, the totality of the psyche, unified and awake. This is the hidden behavior that emerges only in true love, not just the acts of affection or vulnerability, but the inner shifts, the willingness to be undone and remade, the choice to grow through another rather than in isolation. Love becomes the crucible in which the fragmented self is melted and reshaped, not for the sake of the other, but for the sake of becoming whole. Jung never romanticized love. He understood it as a force capable of both wounding and awakening. But he also knew that when a man meets that force with consciousness, courage, and humility, something extraordinary becomes possible. Individuation ceases to be a solitary journey. It becomes a shared evolution, rooted in connection, tested by tension, and redeemed by truth. In the deepest corners of the male psyche, hidden beneath layers of silence, performance, and pride, lies a longing not just to love, but to be transformed by love. Carl Jung's profound insights reveal that when a man truly loves a woman, something far greater than emotion is awakened. His unconscious begins to stir, and with it, the anima, the shadow, and the path toward individuation. The behaviors that emerge in this sacred space are not merely reactions to the relationship. They are messages from the soul, invitations to confront what has long remained hidden. This journey is not linear, nor is it without pain. Vulnerability brings exposure, projection clouds perception, and intimacy awakens ancient wounds. Yet within these very challenges lies the potential for profound transformation. Love becomes the fire through which the fragmented self is forged into wholeness, and the woman, unknowingly or not, becomes a catalyst, not because she completes him, but because she reflects back what he has always carried within. If you felt the truth of these hidden behaviors, or seen them unfold in your own life or in someone close to you, it's a sign that the psyche is asking to be understood. Subscribe to the channel and continue this journey of self-discovery. And don't miss the next video on screen. It may be the next step in your own path toward wholeness.